So someone who has sniffed cocaine and someone who has eaten ugali, okay? These two people have technically had, the ugali guy has stroked dopamine more than the cocaine guy.
So now the cocaine, it depends on the doses of the cocaine.
So the difference here is maybe
Is the doses.
0 to 100.
Yes,
it's an Audi Prado thing.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. You cannot compare it on directly to cocaine, because somebody who consumes cocaine takes a lot of high doses of cocaine, which can be dangerous and can cause overdose. Yeah, but ugali can be broken down faster. Yeah, and then you don't overdose on ugali.
You have not seen the doses of ugali people are taking in Kenya. I think it's been long since you've seen the dosage.
Old couples.
Yes.
Yeah, you find somebody has lived with somebody for like, let's say, 30 years or 40 years. So when the wife dies, it doesn't take long until the husband goes.
I've heard that too.
Yeah. We see this a lot in Europe. Yeah, because you see the Europeans, they live a longer span. The lifespan is now, let's say, 89 to 90. Yeah. They live for a long time together. And once the husband or the wife dies, it doesn't take long until the other one also dies. Yeah, it's because of the decrease of the oxytocin levels. Yeah, so the cardiovascular system will not be supported the way it used to be supported. Yeah. Now, if you want to increase your oxytocin levels, you have to be somebody who is caring, loving, yeah, somebody who hugs a lot, somebody who greets a lot. Yeah, the human touch has to be there. And
hey, wadau, on this platform we are very big on wealth creation na hiyo journey, but every time tunapata new information, I think, let me call it need to know information, we don't hesitate to bring it. Our guest for this episode brings a new twist to the concept health is wealth. Dr. Harun Njago from Switzerland, all the way from Switzerland, kutuletea good vibes. Interestingly, hii conversation iko na nuggets mob sana. I can't wait to get into it. In fact, apparently there's a medical explanation as to why sometimes you find yourself na pressure ya kununua things that you don't even need. We are going to give you a medical excuse for why you waste money. So, but that's just a tip of the iceberg in terms of the good vibes in ziko kwa hii conversation. Now, before we dive in, please allow me to tell you something about one of our partners on our platform, Britam. Na Britam wako na very many assets zenye watu wa kuinvest, mnaweza taka kuweka pesa. Mnaulizanga, we just talk about money, alafu where do we put the money? So one of the products I'd like to bring your attention to ni Britam USD Fixed Income Fund. You are in a business that trades in US dollars, ama kwa line of income yako kuna mahali unapatanga kupitisha madollars, ama unataka stable capital in your investment journey. You need to consider investing in the Britam USD Fixed Income Fund. Apart from just stable capital, the Britam USD Fixed Income Fund inakuja na advantages mob kama daily compounding interest. Inamaanisha you can watch your money grow on daily basis. Alafu, the interest is accessible every month upon request. Alafu, pia platform iko na advantage ya ease of access, which means you can access your money within 48 hours upon request. Alafu, when it comes to where you're putting your money, the big question is, who is handling your money? Britam, having created this platform, has been helping their customers grow wealth for over the past 60 years. And just so that you don't miss out on this opportunity on this growth platform of this generation, the process is very simple. This is a self-registration platform. Process ni very easy. Uko na smartphone, ingia kwa Google Play Store ama kwa Apple Store, download the My Britam app. Make sure uko karibu na national ID yako na KRA pin. Download the app, ingiza your details hapa na pale. Once umeingia ndani, after 2 days they will confirm and approve your account creation, and it's as easy as ABC. Kama hauna smartphone, the process is very simple. Just dial *778# and follow the prompts. Now make sure uko na national ID na KRA pin. Remember, the minimum amount of money you need to open this account ya hii particular product ni 1000 USD. Lakini after kutoka hapo, minimum top up amount unahitaji ni $500. Vile nimesema, the interest on this product is compounded daily. Consider yourself plugged. Very nice. Doc,
Yes.
Karibu sana.
Sana. Yes.
Unajua, when you say, when I first asked kama you practice in Switzerland, it's for a reason. One of my closest friends, anaitwa Dr. Ken Alura, he's a plastic surgeon.
Yeah.
And I feel, kuna siku alikuwa anipigia story, akaniambia if he was practicing in the US, angekuwa done, like the opportunities there, okay,
so
as a plastic surgeon.
Yeah.
But now, despite his years experience as a plastic surgeon, akona practice yake, if he goes to the US, he would have to start from scratch.
From scratch, yeah.
Like undergrad medicine, start from scratch. Where you are relatively young.
Yeah.
How did you manage to be a neurologist in Switzerland?
So first of all, I did my schooling in Kenya. I was born and raised in Kenya. And then did my KCSE in Maranda High School. And then since my cousin was studying in Germany and is working as a doctor in Germany, he's a neurosurgeon, by the way. His name is Timo Gutu. Okay. So he's the one who told me, okay, it would be good to practice medicine in the future in Germany. So the first step would be to do medicine in Germany.
Okay.
Yeah, so I did my studies in Germany, my medical education, I did it in the University of Bonn. But first of all, before I did medicine, I had to learn the German language because it's mandatory to learn the German language because medical school is done in German language. So one has to master the German language for one to be able to thrive in Germany. So I did my German course in Goethe Institute in Nairobi. So I did that course for 9 months and then applied for a bridging course. For one to be able to do medicine in Germany, one has to do a bridging course, 1 year bridging course, because they don't recognize the Kenyan system as such. So one has to do the bridging course for 1 year, of which I applied for. Before doing the bridging course or joining the bridging course, I had to do a German exam. So which I had practiced for it for 9 months and then did the exam. And then passed the exam and then was admitted to the University of Münster. It's a small town, it's a student town in Germany. And I did the bridging course for 1 year. So that bridging course, everything is done in German. So mathematics is done in German, biology, chemistry, and also the German language. So depending on what you want to study, one has to choose a course. So mine was called the M course, medicine course, of which one had to do mathematics, physics, chemistry, biology, and the German language, of which everything is done in German. So I had to learn mathematics in German. So they teach you from 1 + 1 = 2 in German. Yeah, so 1 + 1 = 2. So these are new vocabularies one has to learn. It was tough, but if one is focused and one wants to achieve his goals, one can be able to learn the language. Yeah, so even chemistry, we learned that oxygen, oxygen, the English words, in German is totally different. Instead of oxygen, they call it Sauerstoff. Instead of nitrogen, they call it Stickstoff. Yeah, so those are the new vocabularies that one has to learn and master before one applies for the medical course in Germany.
Okay.
Yeah, so after that bridging course, that 1 year, I had to do a final exam. And if you pass that final exam, they take the final exam grade in the bridging course and take the average with your KCSE grades that I had achieved in Maranda High School. Okay. Yeah, so they take the average, and that average is the one that you apply medicine with. Yeah, and for you to apply for medicine in Germany, you have to have high grades. Yeah, and then you apply for the German, you apply for the medical course, of which I did. For you to be able to improve your chances, you have to apply in many universities. So I applied in like 70 universities and got 70. 70. Yeah. So Germany has every town in Germany has a medical university. Yeah. So they have many university infrastructures that offers medicine. Yeah. So I applied for 70 universities and got admitted, or I got admission letter in 3 universities. So I had to choose. So I chose Bonn. Bonn was the capital city back then in Germany. Now the capital city is Berlin. So I chose Bonn because Bonn was near Münster. And Bonn is where when you graduate, you get that graduation gown. It's a ceremony. It's the only town, it's the only university in Germany that offers that. So there's a graduation ceremony, you get the gown, you get to invite your parents, your relatives. That's why I chose Bonn. Yeah, so I did my medical course in Bonn, studied there for 6 years, everything in German, and applied for neurology. Did neurology for 5 years, specialized in Germany. And then since the working conditions in Switzerland are much better and the pay is much better, I applied for neurology in Germany. So that's where I did my, I got admitted, or I got a post as a senior physician in German in neurology. Then I worked for a hospital called the Regional Hospital of Biel. Yeah, so now I did that, specialized in immunology, and also did all-round neurology. Yeah, so neurology is the medical field that deals with the brain and the nervous system, and anything that has to do with the brain and the nervous system, like stroke, Parkinson, dementia, migraines. Those are things I deal with. Guillain-Barré syndrome, neuroautoimmune diseases. Those are things I deal with. So I got a post in the Regional Hospital of Biel, of which I worked as a senior physician. I was responsible for the neuroimmunology department and also for the electrophysiology department. And then I got a post in a private practice. Yeah, so now at the moment I'm in a private practice in Biel and also in Bern. Bern is the capital city of Switzerland. So that's where I work now.
Very nice. Yeah. So you mentioned studying German,
Yes.
do everything in German.
Everything.
And it's purely because of their pride in their culture.
It's because of their pride in their culture. Yeah, they're very proud of their culture and their language as well.
So it's like if Kenya had a rule in terms of the education system,
Yes.
that in Kenya, foreigners wakikuja, you have to learn engineering in Kikamba.
In Kikamba or Kiswahili, yeah. So that's how it is in Germany.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Now, huku, when someone can only do something in a local language, we look down upon them.
Yeah.
So huko, they learn medicine in their mother tongue.
They learn medicine, they learn everything in their mother tongue.
Very nice. So with that knowledge that you've gathered there as a trained doctor huko, you had the option of training in Kenya.
Yes.
But can you practice in Kenya, having trained in Germany?
I can practice in Kenya. What I need to do is to apply for licensing.
Not to go back to school?
Not to go back to school, no. I don't need to go back to school.
You don't have to go back to school to learn medicine again?
No, I don't need to go back to school to practice medicine in Kenya.
Okay, but if you had studied medicine in Kenya, say for example from the University of Nairobi,
I had to
qualify to.
Then you're not qualified to practice medicine in Germany. Yeah, because it's not recognized fully. So you have to go back to school, do the same curriculum, do an exam, and also rotate as a resident. Yeah, again, let's say you're highly professional and you're a surgeon, fully certified surgeon in Kenya, but still your credentials will not be recognized fully. Yeah, you still have to do the national exam, national medical exam in Germany, and also you have to rotate as a resident. Yeah, for you to be able to qualify to work as a certified surgeon.
Very nice. So, so is this based on just trust in their own system? Ama, when the rubber meets the road as far as medicine is concerned, the distinction is as in nutrition, there's difference between white meat and red meat.
Yes. So the training over there is very rigorous, and the practice, they do a lot of practical training.
Okay.
Yeah. So like, let's say now I get a stroke, or let's say now we're having a conversation and then I get a stroke. And you realize that I'm having a stroke. Let's say now I have a weakness in my right arm and I cannot articulate myself very well. And you realize that I have stroke. And you call the ambulance 911. By the time the ambulance gets here, it'll take some time. Yeah, let's say there's traffic and the people are very stubborn in the traffic. They don't want to let the ambulance to go faster.
That's in Kenya.
In Kenya,
yes.
Yeah. So if that happens, let's say it takes the ambulance 45 minutes to get here. And you know, time is brain. By the time the ambulance takes me to the hospital, 1.5 hours has passed. So by the time I'm getting admitted in the ER, I'm asked for a deposit. do you have money? So let's say I say I have money, okay, they ask for 400,000, I give them the 400,000, I have the money. In Kenya, certified neurologists are not many. Yeah, so the specialist is called, maybe now it's festive season, he's somewhere enjoying himself, or he's in Ushago, and they call him. By the time they reach the neurologist, yeah, who is a specialized physician who can take care of a stroke, to get instructions, what should we do? And you know, time is brain. Let's say you reach the neurologist after 2 hours, yeah? So the neurologist get called, yeah, and is somewhere far away, since there are not so many neurologists in Kenya, so it takes another 3 hours until I get administered to by the neurologist. So by the time I'm getting a CT scan or an MRI imaging of the brain, yeah, you know, stroke is an acute clogging of the arteries in the brain. So by the time I get administered to, the neurologist comes after, let's say, 6 hours. The neurologist is there after 6 hours.
Yes.
So he tells me, okay, it seems like you have a stroke. Yeah, he checks my medical history. And then he realizes, okay, this guy needs an antidote, something called TPA. So TPA is a strong anticoagulant that can be administered through the vein, yeah, and then you reverse the stroke. Yeah, since stroke is a clogging, so they give you a strong anticoagulant, and then it reverses that clogging. So the arteries are reopened again.
Okay.
That TPA, the amount of money it costs, yeah, it's like, I would say, a million Kenya shillings for you to get that infusion.
One dosage?
One dosage. Yeah, it's like 1 million Kenya shillings. Yeah, not so many people have that 1 million Kenya shillings. Even if you're rich and you have some money saved somewhere, yeah, you'll have to use all that money, yeah, to be able to get that anticoagulant for you to be able to reverse the stroke. Yeah, so you see now, so now they realize there's a clogging in one of the major branches of the brain. So I need also an arterial intervention. Yeah, I need to be taken to another specialized center, yeah, for them to go through my arteries and remove that clogging in the main branch that supplies blood to the brain. Yeah, that will cost us an extra money. Yeah, so let's say another 1 million. Yeah, so you see, it's a lot of money.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So for me to be able to be administered to, it needs a lot of experience. Yeah, it needs a lot of training, and not so many doctors here in Kenya have that training. Yeah, and most of the doctors who go for that kind of training, they go for that training abroad. Yeah, to get that type of training. Yeah, so let's say now I get a stroke in Switzerland. By the time the ambulance is here, it's only 15 minutes. Yeah, the paramedics, they know exactly what to do. They know exactly what to administer. They know how to take the vitals. By the time I'm in the hospital, it's like 30 minutes. By the time I'm in the hospital, the whole ER team is waiting for me. The doctor is waiting for me. The neurologist on call, he's waiting for me over there. They know my medical history. They know the type of medication that I'm taking. They know my age. They have all my information there. So within 10 minutes after examining me in the ER, I'm given that TPA after excluding all the risk factors. Yeah, so I'm given that TPA, and then the recovery chances are very high because they did it so fast. Yeah, and if there's an extra intervention that I need, yeah, they have centers close to many hospitals where I can get that intervention. So within 1 hour, I'm taken care of, and I'm in the ward, yeah, recovering.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And thank you for that explanation. You said, you described, that's the most basic definition of a stroke I've ever had. Yeah. It's acute clogging of arteries leading to the brain.
Leading to the brain.
Then what's, before we proceed, what blocks people from thinking? What's the name for that?
What blocks people from thinking?
People who don't think.
People who don't think.
That's not arteries.
No, there's no major artery that is supplying the brain for the region that causes thinking. No, there's no artery for that.
But there's people who don't think it's a form of stroke, but probably a neuroscientist.
Yeah, people who don't think. Okay, it depends on what you mean by thinking. So let's say people who have memory problems.
No, not memory problems.
Yeah.
But I get it. I think that's debate
For another time. Yeah.
But I want to bring it here. Where that description of our healthcare system is scary.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it would be interesting to find a Kenyan politician who are among the policymakers. And I'm not inviting you to politics. I'm just laying context. Who are supposed to lay policies.
Yes.
To better the healthcare system, being flown out to come.
Yes.
Be treated by you.
Yeah.
Who went to
Switzerland. Yeah.
To study there, right?
Yeah.
So when you see that, what are the options for the person who's here before our politicians, some of them, not all of them, get unclogged for the stroke here in neuroscience?
Yeah. So you see, even the politicians or even people who have money, when they get an acute stroke or when they get any medical issues, they fly abroad to get better medical care. Yeah, so that means that they don't trust the medical care system in their own country, and yet they're the policymakers who can make sure that they have a good, adequate medical system in Kenya. Even if you're rich and if you have money, and the medical system is not adequate in Kenya for you to be able to be treated in Kenya. So let's say now you get an acute stroke, and like I said, time is brain. So for you to be able to be flown out of the country and get the right medication, it will take some time for you to get the right medication, and you lose a lot of brain tissue. So you see, if the medical system in Kenya was so good and so adequate, you would have been able to begin to get treatment here, at a very faster and cheaper way.
Is this an opportunity for someone like you to come have a course to train neurologists in Kenya?
That's a goal of so many medical doctors in the diaspora.
But
then there are challenges.
Like?
Yeah. So first of all, for you to be able to practice medicine in Kenya, you have to get a license. Yeah, you have to be licensed to get a medical to be able to practice medicine in Kenya. So that license, you have to apply for it. It costs something like 100,000 Kenya shillings, and you have to sit in a panel of experts in Kenya, and they are the ones who are supposed to. They're the ones who are going to decide if you're going to get the license or not. Yeah. So this one is seen as a hurdle, for Kenyans to come back home and study medicine. You see, like for me, I did medicine in Germany. Yeah, what I had to do was just to submit my documents in Switzerland, the Swiss authorities. I had to pay 80,000 Kenya shillings. Yeah, that was about 600 Swiss francs. So I had to pay that. They checked my credentials and my documents, and then they gave me the license. Yeah, but for me to be, I'm a certified doctor who treats a lot of people, lots of international clients and all that, patients. Yeah, but for me to be able to get license in Kenya, I have to go through a rigorous process of lots of documentation, pay money, and then sit in front of a panel of experts or medical doctors, for me to be able to be admitted in the Kenyan medical system. And nowadays, I have a cousin of mine who does it from his own heart. He comes to Kenya, he sets camp in different places, and then treat people for free. So for him to be able to get a license to do that, he pays 20K for a license of 5 days. Yeah, and he's Kenyan, he wants to treat Kenyans for free.
I think it's okay for us to give him props for that.
Yeah.
Can you mention him?
It's called Daniel Ogutu.
Daniel Ogutu.
Yes.
You mentioned him at first.
Yeah. Tim Ogutu is his older brother.
Okay.
He's the one who advised us to go to study in Germany.
Special shout out to Dr. Daniel
Ogutu.
Daniel Ogutu.
Yes.
He sets up camps, pays for the license fees.
Yes.
And treats people for free.
Yes.
Out of his...
Yeah. So his organization is called Doki's Advice. So he comes every year, once in a year, mostly in November. But for him to get licensed to treat people for free, he has to pay 20,000 for 5 days. So let's say he's treating people for like 30 days. He has to pay, after every 5 days, 20K. Yeah, for him to get medical license to treat people for free. So these are the type of challenges that we're getting. And then...
They're gatekeeping wellness.
They're gatekeeping wellness, yeah. So the problem is now, they've even made it so hard. they've outsourced that licensing to a US-based company. Yeah, so your documents are being sent to the US, yeah, for them to check it and approve it. Once they get the go-ahead from this US-based company is when they invite you for the panel, yeah, to sit in front of the experts for them to decide if you're going to get the medical license or not.
Oh dear Lord.
Yeah, and it takes a lot of time, and for you to be able to get that chance, yeah, to sit in front of that panel, it will take you, like I say, a year or 2 years.
So he has to start applying in advance before
You have to start
to set camp.
Yes, he has to apply in advance, and now since they know him, yeah, he can come, yeah, but he has to pay 20,000 every 5 days for him to get license.
Oh, ho.
Yeah.
So now, before we fix our healthcare system, it means the tag for most Kenyans is prevention.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So let's talk prevention for a bit. When you say a stroke is, let's say, for example, as you described it, acute clogging of the arteries,
yes,
leading to the brain, right? And I've seen people, and I think it was discouraging to see, I believe, Muhammad Ali. I don't know, the boxer.
The boxer.
I don't know, Kama, he suffered a stroke. I believe he did.
He had Parkinson's disease.
Yeah, I believe that's your area, right? Was this because of brain injuries? Is this genetic? And where I'm going with the example of Muhammad Ali is, some people would say that if you keep fit, you won't suffer this.
Yeah.
But we have gym instructors and people in fitness circles dying very young.
Yeah.
And people, on one hand, blame, what do we call them? Is it the supplements they use, but you still, I believe you say something that leans towards the possibility of the food we eat.
Yes.
Right? Please, let's talk prevention for a bit.
Yeah, so prevention is the key. Yeah, because treating diseases is expensive, and a healthy lifestyle is wealth. Health is wealth. Yeah, so you can maximize your potential only if you're fully healthy. Yeah, so for you to avoid lots of costs of that is attached to diseases,
yes,
it's good to do prevention.
Yes.
So the number one killer at the moment in the world is not cancer, is not the Ukraine war, is not the wars that are going around. It's cardiovascular diseases. Yeah, in the 70s it was cancer, but that was overtaken at some point since the 90s, and now it's the cardiovascular diseases. So cardiovascular disease is any disease that affects the arteries that leads to major organs in the body. Let's say the brain and the heart. So the type of food you're eating, you see, there's the westernized type of living, and there's the African way of living, yeah, that the Africans are used to. Yeah. So now let's precisely speak about Kenyans. Since the health system in Kenya is challenging.
Yes.
Health is very expensive. For you to be admitted and get medication, you need to get you need to deposit some money. Yeah, and if a specialist comes and see you, does his rounds, yeah, he'll give you also an invoice, which will cost a lot of money. And money is what is scarce in Kenya. The health insurance system is not so adequate compared to the Western countries. Yeah, like for me now, if I get any stroke, I won't pay anything. Yeah, the insurance company will cover for everything. Even that TPA medication that will get administered that costs 1 million Kenya shillings, the insurance company will take care of it. At the end of the day, I won't spend any money, or just little money.
As long as you are covered.
As long as you're covered. And everybody has to be covered. It's mandatory in the Western countries, now let's say Switzerland or Germany, to have health insurance. It's mandatory. Every citizen has to have a health insurance, even the children.
And it's functional.
Okay. Yeah. So the health system and the insurance system in Kenya has some challenges. Yeah. So let's say now you have a good insurance, you're paying like, let's say 50K or even 30K per month for that insurance, and still you get a stroke, and they see that the cost is high, they might tell you that they will not cover everything. Yeah, so you'll end up getting deep into your pocket and paying for other costs.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for you to be able to prevent that, you need to check your diet. You need to check what you're eating. Like I said, cardiovascular disease is the number one killer at the moment in the world. So what we are eating is what is causing a lot of diseases. Yeah, so you might get medication, yeah, but you're just treating a symptom. You're not treating the root cause. Yeah, and for let's say now, let me speak to Kenyans. Yeah, for Kenyans to be able to prevent diseases and prevent lots of costs that arise from diseases and medication, and for them to be able to maximize their potential, they need to watch what they're eating. So you see things like high carbohydrates, yeah, high carb diets, things like white ugali, white rice, bread, fast food, pizza, pasta. Those are foods that clog the arteries.
White ugali.
White ugali.
White rice.
White rice, yeah. Sugar. Yeah, the sugar you put in your tea, the sugar you put in your coffee, that's a drug.
You are buying stroke in installments.
You're buying stroke and accumulating stroke in installments, yeah.
White ugali.
White ugali. So you see, white ugali has less fiber.
Yes.
And white ugali is easily broken down into glucose.
You might as well lick it.
Yes. Yeah. So if you eat something that's easily broken down into glucose, so you'll have a lot of glucose in your bloodstream that will cause insulin spike, and that insulin spike will drive all that glucose into your cells. So now you have an overstimulation of insulin, and also you have a lot of glucose in your cells, and the ones that will not be needed for energy production will be stored, and it will be stored like fat. You see, back then when we were hunters and gatherers, we didn't have a lot of access to food. Yeah, so belly fat was actually a good thing, because when there is hunger and there's drought, that belly fat will be broken down, and then you'll get energy from that belly fat. It's called visceral fat. But nowadays, we have a lot of abundance of food, and we move around with cars, we have nannies, yeah, we have washing machines, so we don't exercise a lot, we don't move a lot, and we don't put our bodies into stress a lot. Yeah. So now, let's say you're having 3 meals a day. So let's say in the morning you eat bread, yeah, then you eat like, let's say a cake, and then you put some jam on it, yeah, then you put some peanut butter on it. Those are added sugars, yeah, and then you put some, I see people putting 3 tablespoons of sugar in their tea or coffee, yeah, so that's a sugar bomb, yeah, so you get a huge insulin spike, and insulin is also a growth hormone, yeah, so now you have a lot of sugar in your cells, you have a lot of accumulation of fat, because that sugar has to be stored in some way, if you're not burning that fat very fast. And insulin is a growth hormone. So since insulin, you have a lot of insulin spike in your body, it causes a growth of the arteries walls. Yeah, the walls of the arteries, they grow fat. Yeah, and the artery walls become bigger, and the artery narrows and becomes smaller. Yeah. So you have sugar that you put in your tea or in your coffee. You have white ugali. Now let's speak in the context of Kenyans. Yeah, you have white rice, which is eaten almost on a daily basis, on a regular basis. You have jam. Yeah, people when they take breakfast, they have jam. They have peanut butter. Then they also have some cheese and all that. So it's an accumulation of high carbohydrates in your body. Yeah, so that leads to arteriosclerosis. It's the clogging of the brain, and then if you have a lot of arteriosclerosis, that's this fat that I'm saying that excess glucose is stored as fat is going to be stored like LDL cholesterol. So LDL cholesterol is not a good cholesterol. Yeah, so it's going to be stored in your arteries. Yeah, this is what you call the visceral fat. It's going to be stored in your inner organs. Yeah, so if that happens, you have also a narrowing of the artery, and also you have that insulin that is also creating further narrowing of the artery. So you get high blood pressure, yeah? So you get also some deposits of calcium in that artery, and this deposit of calcium might also cause inflammation also in the artery. And then that artery can rupture, yeah? So that rupture is what causes stroke or a heart attack. Yeah.
So, thank you for that detailed explanation. But I'm shocked by the ugali racism. As in, for me, I've never thought like, as in, people think the white ugali is cool.
Yeah.
Like it has been, they call it sifted.
Yeah. Yeah.
For use for easy consumption of your body.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is it overdosing on the white ugali that is the problem, or just consuming it?
Just consuming it. Just consuming it. Because if you see the ugali, by the end of the day, that ugali, how do you call it, the unga, yeah? By the end of the day, you have that unga, there's no fiber anymore in it, yeah? So the good thing about fiber is that fiber blocks the intake, the rapid intake of sugar in your intestines, through your intestines in the bloodstream.
So ugali is not eaten alone. So as a suspect for causing stroke, ugali never goes down alone.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you outsource fiber, do you neutralize the effect of the white ugali?
So you can neutralize the effect of the white ugali through eating vegetables before you eat that ugali.
So kule mboga umalize kwanza alafu kutane na ugali.
Exactly.
Kule not mboga, the other way around. So
yes.
Not pamoja.
No, not pamoja. So eat the vegetables first, yeah? Give it a break, yeah? Let's say 5 to 10 minutes a break.
And then ujinyonge na ugali.
And then sasa unaweza kula ugali na supu, yeah? Or any other sauce. Yeah? Then
if you do that, it's safe.
If you do that, it's safer than just eating everything together. It's safer, but not the safest way. Yeah.
Doc.
So if you eat vegetables first, since these ones have fiber, they're going to block the walls of the intestines. Yeah. So sugar.
It's like you lay a carpet first.
Exactly.
Ugali itapitia.
Exactly. Yeah. So the sugar spike is not going to be so high because it will take the ugali, or it will take the glucose a long time to be absorbed in the bloodstream. Yeah. So that's one trick for people who cannot stop ugali completely. Yeah. So eat vegetables first, and then you can eat your white ugali or your white rice afterwards.
And this is very bad news for people who eat ugali with tea. The white ugali with tea in the morning.
Yes, and then add some sugar in the tea or coffee as well.
That is suicide.
That's suicide. Yeah, it's literally suicide.
So what color of ugali is safe?
You can take the brown ugali or the millet ugali. It has some fiber in it. Yeah, that one has fiber.
So that's the safe ugali.
That's the safe ugali, but not the safest way of preventing diseases, because it still will be broken down into glucose, and then it will cause some sugar spike as well, insulin spike as well.
So what you're saying is ugali is cocaine no matter what?
Ugali is cocaine. Actually, you're touching on a very good point, because they did an experiment. This is very interesting. They did an experiment with rats, yeah, and they found out that there were two chambers. So there was a chamber where they had cocaine, a hard drug that stimulates dopamine, and they also had a chamber of sugar. Yeah. So initially the rats were going everywhere. They were going to the sugar chamber and also going to the cocaine chamber. At some point, they're only going to the sugar chamber. Yeah, because sugar or glucose causes a dopamine increase 20 times more than cocaine. Yeah.
Yes.
It causes an increase of dopamine. It stimulates dopamine production 20 times more than cocaine.
So this is when someone has cocaine is also called unga.
Yeah.
So someone who has sniffed cocaine and someone who has eaten ugali, okay? These two people have technically had, the ugali guy has stroked dopamine more than the cocaine guy.
So now the cocaine, it depends on the doses of the cocaine.
So the difference here is maybe
is the doses
0 to 100.
Yes,
it's an Audi Prado thing.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, so it's the doses. Cocaine, people who consume cocaine, they take high doses of cocaine.
Okay.
Yeah, but the ugali that you're taking, it's accumulating as years go by. Okay. Yeah, that's why young people get less cardiovascular diseases, but when you reach a certain age, after all that atherosclerosis has accumulated, you start getting problems. At the age of 50, at the age of 60, now you start going to the doctor more frequently because you're accumulating atherosclerosis, and you're doing it or you're willingly doing it every day, yeah, on a regular basis.
So let's say we have declared ugali cocaine.
Yeah.
Assuming the government watches this podcast and they decide to classify ugali and cocaine
Yeah.
as similar drugs.
Yeah.
Okay? On medical advice for
Yeah.
this podcast. What should people eat then?
Now, since ugali has high caloric index, yeah, it's high on sugar, it's high on glucose, it's easily broken down into glucose, causes a lot of insulin spike. People should avoid this type of foods. Yeah, you cannot compare it directly to cocaine, because somebody who consumes cocaine takes a lot of high doses of cocaine, which can be dangerous and can cause overdose. Yeah, but ugali can be broken down faster. Yeah, and then you don't overdose on ugali.
You have not seen the doses of ugali people are taking in Kenya. I think it's been long since you've seen the dosage.
Yeah.
You can just go on and if someone doesn't know the dosage, just go on your social media and search Ugali Man.
Yeah.
You'll see the dosage.
I've seen that those clips of Ugali Man. So that guy is very unhealthy. I don't want to attack him directly, but if he does that on a regular basis, he's accumulating arteriosclerosis and he's on a high risk of developing cardiovascular diseases in the long run. Yeah. So people should avoid high caloric foods. People should now take high fiber foods rich in high fiber. Yeah. So you can eat ndengu, you can eat beans, you can eat kales. Yeah.
In short, what you're saying, people should go to jail.
People should go to jail.
That's as in it's the foods you've just mentioned.
Yeah. It's the food that is being served in jail.
So are you saying prisoners are living a healthier life than Kenyans out here?
Yes. If they're eating less carbs in prison, they're living a healthier life, yeah, when it comes to nutrition, yeah, compared to Kenyans out here. Yeah. So the thing is to eat lots of vegetables, lots of fiber. There's also a problem with meat. That's another topic one can touch on maybe later on.
A problem with meat?
With meat, animal products.
President Moi lived up to 94.
Yes.
And his son Gideon Moi, during his funeral service, I believe, revealed that he would not quit meat, and he lived to 94.
Yeah. So that was a lucky president. There are people who are lucky, yeah, who, despite of their lifestyle, they still are able to maintain a healthy life. Yeah. So you have people who smoke a lot, yeah, but still get to live up to 90. And then you have somebody who just started smoking the other day and then gets a stroke within 5 years. Yeah, so it depends on the genes and depends on the lifestyle as well. And also it depends on the life purpose that you have. So if your life still has a lot of meaning and you're needed, yeah, then your lifespan will be prolonged, yeah, because of a hormone called oxytocin. Yeah. Oxytocin.
You're trading into interesting guys. So before we go to oxytocin, oxytocin is the attachment hormone.
It's the attachment hormone.
Okay. Turudi nyuma kidogo.
Yeah.
Can you go and get your genes tested to see if you are a born sinner?
No. There's no gene that is known for that. It has never been tested to know if you're a sinner or not.
Okay. Then what's the relationship between oxytocin and living a longer life?
So oxytocin is a binding hormone, and that binding hormone increases the health of the heart and the cardiovascular system.
If people love you,
if you feel loved, yeah, if you're a giver, if you're a person who, let's say, hugs a lot, yeah, greets people with the hands a lot, yeah, so that increases the oxytocin levels, yeah. But if you're a lonely person, that's why people who get depressed, it's called heartbreak, yeah, because people who are depressed, people who are lonely, yeah, someone who has just got dumped, yeah, there's a reason why they call it heartbreak, yeah, because oxytocin, once you are attached to somebody or attached to people, you have a lot of oxytocin in your blood, and that one supports the cardiovascular system. So your heart pumps better, your cardiovascular system works efficiently, so you get less chances of getting a stroke or heart attack.
It's a very interesting analogy because I actually shared an idea borrowed from
and that's why also you see old people who have lived for long, old couples.
Yes.
Yeah, you find somebody has lived with somebody for, like, let's say 30 years or 40 years. So when the wife dies, it doesn't take long until the husband goes.
I've heard that too.
Yeah. We see this a lot in Europe. Yeah, because you see the Europeans, they live a longer span. The lifespan is now, let's say, 89 to 90. Yeah. They live for a long time together. And once the husband or the wife dies, it doesn't take long until the other one also dies. Yeah, it's because of the decrease of the oxytocin levels. Yeah, so the cardiovascular system will not be supported the way it used to be supported by. Yeah. Now, if you want to increase your oxytocin levels, you have to be somebody who is caring, loving, yeah, somebody who hugs a lot, somebody who greets a lot. Yeah, the human touch has to be there. And
so if you take it a notch higher and venture into sex, now you're living forever.
Now there's another interesting aspect in that. So if you take a lot of sugar, you have, like I said, you have, when you take a lot of sugar, when you take like white ugali, white rice, you put sugar in your tea or coffee, your dopamine levels will go high. Yeah, so once your dopamine levels go high, your cortisol levels also go high. So cortisol and oxytocin, yeah, and testosterone, and also the sexual hormones of the women, they have a direct correlation. Yeah. So if dopamine goes high, oxytocin goes low. That's why you see people who have a lot of money who overspend and overstimulated with wealth and materials. Yeah, they have less sympathy, less empathy. Yeah, so you see a rich person who has a Prado, let's say a Bentley or Rolls Royce, driving around, seeing somebody who's poor, asking for money but doesn't give, doesn't share. Yeah, that is somebody who has lots of dopamine, yeah, and has less oxytocin. And if you have less oxytocin, that's the binding hormone. Now, if you have an increase also on cortisol and testosterone and progesterone, they are derived from one hormone called pregnenolone. Yeah, so pregnenolone, if the demand of cortisol is high, yeah, because you have a high dopamine or you have a lot of stress, yeah, you're going to get less testosterone production. So your libido will go down. Yeah, the sexual hormone of the women will also go down. Yeah, that's why you find at some point, yeah, the gap between the husband and the wife in the bed widens up. Yeah, divorce cases are going high. Yeah, people are getting divorced very
You're
highly.
Not petty, ni ugali.
Yeah, ni ugali, it's sugar, and also the technology that we're using nowadays, the blue light. Yeah, so the technology that we're using, the phones, the screen time, yeah, the TV. So if you're a person who uses the phone on a regular basis in the evening, let's say you're scrolling down, you're using social media, watching YouTube videos at night before you go to bed. So that's the case also as well. So
there's something there. Before we go to the lights,
yeah,
the infrared and the blue light,
yes,
note that here. First, let's confirm that the oxytocin in someone determines how you relate with other people.
Yes, yes.
And so, in fact, let me summarize to say, it's a polite name. Yeah, oxytocin could be a polite scientific name for mwanakamati ya roho mbaya.
Yeah.
If ukitaka kujua mtu roho chafu, it's accurate to say huyu jamaa ananga oxytocin.
Anaga oxytocin, yeah.
Ama
ana oxytocin kidogo.
Akona
kidogo sana. Because akona lots of cortisol, maybe let's say cortisol levels are high. This is a stressed person, chronic stress. So if you have chronic stress, the cortisol levels go high. It's a stress hormone. Yeah, it keeps you in fight or flight modus.
Okay.
Yeah. If you're overstimulated with dopamine materials, now you have money, you want to buy this car, you buy the other car, you buy this phone, you buy this land, you buy this property. You're overstimulating yourself with dopamine. So if dopamine goes high, oxytocin goes low. That's why people who are overstimulating themselves with money and materials have less oxytocin, less sympathy, less empathy.
And what's going on?
That's why it's easier for a poor person to go to another poor person's house and ask for chumvi. Yeah, rich people, if he forgot to buy chumvi, yeah, he'd rather wait the next day to be able to continue to cook that food or order something from outside instead of going to the neighbor and ask for chumvi.
This is directly linked to the diet, like the food you eat, balancing your
Yes.
your hormones, oxytocin.
Yes.
Oxytocin is a hormone.
It's a hormone. It's a binding hormone, it's a loving hormone. Yeah. It's a hormone that provides sympathy, empathy, and also provides longevity.
Does this, okay, in terms of, is this reversible? Can someone now all of a sudden, when someone stimulizes themselves with money, okay, two things. Unasema vitu mingi powerful, turudi nyuma kidogo.
Yeah.
So what's the relationship between oxytocin, a person with low oxytocin is the typical bad boy.
Bad boy.
In terms of attachment, how do you explain the science that women gravitate more towards such kind of people who are unempathetic and...
That's another story altogether, because women, they love challenge. Yeah, they love the challenge. Yeah, they love to be able to model somebody to make them the person who they want them to be. Yeah, so the reason why bad boys are getting good women, yeah, it's because these women want that challenge. They're thrilled with that challenge. Yeah, so if you're a person who's already made, who has a good character and fit to their profile, you'll be boring at some point. So that is what many women who are young, who are not really, who have not really have a lot of relationships, they go for bad boys. Yeah, it's not because of that oxytocin. It's not because that opposite attract. Yeah, it's because they just want that thrill, that challenge. Exactly.
Intrinsically.
Yes.
Okay.
That's the reason.
Okay.
But it's not because opposite attract. No.
Okay. Now break down hapo kwa diet, I believe.
Yeah.
Okay. Twende kwa mambo ni mengi zenye tumebakisha, tunaweza rudi to fill in the time.
Yeah.
The dopamine system and the effect of infrared and blue light.
Yeah. So the blue light, I'll start with the blue light first. Yeah, because
blue light is the phone screen.
Yes, so the blue light is the natural light that you get during the day. Yeah, so the blue light is the light that is emitted by the sun. So during the day, you have a lot of blue light. Yeah, the light you see.
Blue light.
Yeah, the light you see is the blue light. Yeah, it's the spectrum of the light that you see. Yeah, if you put it in a spectrometer, you'll see it as blue. Yeah, so that's the light that will be reflected and appear blue. Yeah, so it's a light that has the short wavelength between 430 to 480 nanometers. And it's a light that is going to be registered in your eye.
Yes.
Because if it reaches your eye, it's going to be bent because it has a short wavelength, and it's going to hit the fovea. The fovea is a part of the eye that has a lot of photosensitive receptors. It's called the intrinsic ganglion cells in the eye.
Yes.
Yeah. So the other lights, the infrared lights, the ultraviolet lights, you don't see them. They are there, but you don't see them, yeah, because they have a longer wavelength and they don't bend in your eye adequately and hit the fovea. So the only light that hits the fovea is the blue light, because it has a short wavelength. So that's the light that is emanated by the sun during daylight. So that's the light you need during daylight. So when it reaches nighttime, the sun sets and then it becomes dark. So your eyes, they're not hit by the blue light from the sun. Yeah. So your brain registers that time as nighttime. So lack of blue light will cause melatonin rise. Melatonin is a sleep hormone. Yeah. So it will make you relax, feel sleepy, and that's the hormone that helps you sleep deeply and recover the next day. So now if you're using blue light, the blue light is the light that is in the phones, the screens, the LED lights, the ones that we're seeing here all over, everywhere. So if you're overexposed to that light in the evening, let's say you use your phone for like 1 hour, 2 hours before you go to sleep, the brain registers this light as daylight. So your brain thinks it's daytime and it's nighttime. So that blue light will be registered in the fovea. The ganglion cells will take it, register it as blue light, transport it to the suprachiasmus nucleus, in the brain, and then it will suppress the production of melatonin in the pituitary gland. Yeah, so you'll not be able to sleep deeply, and you'll not be able to sleep adequately. So at night, between, let's say you have an 8-hour sleep, that's the time the brain detoxifies through a system called the glymphatic system. Yeah. So in the periphery, you have the lymphatic system, but in the brain, you have the glymphatic system. So when you have a deep sleep, the pressure of the brain decreases, and then the liquor system, the ventricle system, is the one that collects all the toxins in the brain, takes them to the lymphatic system in the periphery, and then it gets detoxified. Yeah. So that one will be impaired. When you wake up, you feel fatigued, you get memory loss, you get anxiety if you're not able to sleep well. That's one point. So when the melanin production is decreased, you won't be able to get sleep, so your sleep will not be supported. So when melatonin decreases, dopamine rises. Yeah, it has a direct correlation. So when the dopamine rises, normally dopamine, you need it in the morning, and you need it for focus and motivation. That's why when you wake up in the morning and you have a good sleep, you're more motivated, more focused, and you also have a better concentration. Yeah, dopamine provides for that. When dopamine arises, cortisol arises. Yeah, the stress hormone. Yeah, so cortisol also will make you become alert during nighttime. Normally, you're supposed to be sleepy and tired, but you'll be alert at night. You'll be able to sleep well. So cortisol levels are high, dopamine levels are high, melatonin levels are low, so you won't be able to get a good sleep. So if cortisol levels are high, so that means there's a high demand for cortisol. So that means pregnenolone will be broken down more into cortisol than testosterone and the sexual hormone. So your libido will go down at some point. And if cortisol levels are high, the sugar levels at night will go high. Yeah, thus leading to insulin resistance. Yeah, so you might be eating very healthy, you might be going to the gym on a daily basis, but if your cortisol levels are high, you will not be able to lose weight the way you wanted to lose weight. Yeah, because you're getting something called insulin resistance, and then you have a high risk of also getting diabetes. Yeah, so if cortisol levels are also high, there are also lots of cytokines that are going to be produced, and you're going to get also something called chronic inflammation. Yeah, so all of a sudden you have arthritis, yeah, you have joint pains, you have back aches, yeah, you have chronic inflammation as well. Yeah, if your sexual hormones are down, and cortisol levels are also high, and dopamine levels are also high, oxytocin levels also go down, because it's a direct correlation between cortisol, dopamine, and oxytocin. So you see that one system, that one technology, the blue light can affect your whole endocrine system.
Yes.
And what I forgot to mention is that when dopamine levels are always high, so at night you have high levels of dopamine. During the day, you also have high levels of dopamine because you're exposed to sunlight and the blue light. So dopamine is a stimulating hormone. So that your brain can protect itself from being overstimulated, it downregulates the receptors of dopamine. So the receptors of dopamine gets downregulated, so dopamine cannot function on a normal basis with the amount of dopamine you have in your brain. So what people end up doing, they search for external sources or external stimuli for them to be able to produce more dopamine, for them to satisfy those receptors that are remaining. Yeah, so you find somebody going to gamble, you find somebody going to buy a car that he doesn't need, you find a lady buying clothes that she doesn't need, you find somebody booking a holiday in Maldives that he or she doesn't need, yeah, just to get that external stimulation, because the dopamine levels that he has in the brain is not enough to satisfy him. You find somebody being over-sexual, you find somebody going to get other ladies beside the wife because he needs that extra stimuli for him to be able to get satisfied. That's why you get some people who are very rich but highly depressed because they don't get that satisfactory stimuli.
So that, now, every time you have like loads and loads of points. So let me start na ya mwisho tukirudi nyuma. Oversexual has nothing to do with men are genetically wired to cheat or to have multiple.
No. Yeah, there's this pathological oversexuality. And there's also that normal sexuality of men due to testosterone. Yeah, due to testosterone. Testosterone is the man hormone. It's a sexual man hormone. It's the hormone that makes you feel protective and the hormone that makes you feel fertile as a man. Yeah, so genetically and biologically, I know I'll find a lot of women with this, but if you think of it logically, men they produce a lot of semen. Yeah, they produce a lot of sperms for them to be able to reproduce. So you see, a lady can only be pregnant once in every 9 months, or let's say once in every 1 year. But men can populate and they can reproduce with many ladies at the same time. Yeah, that is only for reproduction purposes. And men are geared to that because of the testosterone. Yeah, testosterone is the hormone that makes you reproduce, and it's the hormone also that makes you feel protective. Men are there to protect, and provide. Yeah, and that's normal for men, but the society has made it nowadays in a way that one man, one wife. In other countries, one man can be able to have 4 wives. Yeah, like in the Arabian countries in Europe, one man, one wife. In Kenya, it's still not so overregulated, because society still allows it. But there are some men who are married but still are promiscuous because of that sexual drive, of which might be normal but not pathological.
Okay.
Yeah.
So based on that, what are your thoughts on semen retention for men?
Semen retention, it has its advantages and disadvantages. Yeah. Lots of testosterone is not good. If you do semen retention, you still have a lot of testosterone in your body, and that might feed prostate cancer. Yeah. So the more you release, the less chances of you to get prostate cancer. Yeah. Because prostate cancer feeds on testosterone. Yeah. So the more you ejaculate as a man with the right woman or with your wife, the better for you to protect yourself from prostate cancer.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now we go back, still on the same thought. You need to have a definite sleeping pattern. So as you are explaining the relationship between blue light and sleep, and cortisol and dopamine, it means in the natural state of human beings, it means people should sleep when it goes dark.
Yes. People should sleep when it goes dark because that's when melatonin is being produced.
Okay.
Melanin,
which means, from a medical perspective,
yes,
human beings should only have sex during the day.
No.
But you will be messing up with your cortisol.
Not only during the day, you can also have sex during the evening before you go to sleep. Yeah, but what you need is an adequate sleep, at least 8 hours. Yeah. And the reason why you are geared to having sex in the evening is because dopamine levels go low, in the evening. Oxytocin levels go high, so you have that binding hormone that is higher in the blood during that time.
Oh Lord. So I'll put to you a theory in terms of in terms of parts of the brain.
Yeah.
There's a prefrontal cortex.
Yes.
That this is one of the unique stories I've ever seen. Jonathan Haidt is a philosopher, social philosopher.
Yes.
He writes in a book about a story about a university in Virginia, I believe it's Virginia, where a middle-aged professor started to change behaviors, started to making overtures at young girls, all of a sudden, and he started procuring the services of the girls of the night, the night nurses, and at one point he was taken to court because he had, I believe, threatened to rape his landlady. So when a day before his sentencing, he complained of a very serious headache.
Yeah.
So as he's getting wheeled to the operation room, I believe, he was actually making passes at the nurses. So they did a brain scan and noticed that he had a tumor in his brain pressing on the prefrontal cortex, which is responsible for inhibiting an inappropriate behavior. So they removed the tumor and those urges disappeared and he became normal. Right?
Yeah.
So I believe you're the best person, or one of the best people to answer this question.
Yeah.
So, and it disappeared, he went back to being normal. So now, 2 years later, the tumor grew back, he went back to the
same behaviors, yeah.
So would you say to a great extent then in this case that crime is not so much about behavior, it is about
the biological changes,
biological composition of a person.
So at some degree, yes, yeah, because these tumors in the prefrontal cortex, they might cause us change of behavior. I had a patient also who had prefrontal cortex epilepsy. Yeah, so once he gets his seizures, you won't see him like kind of trembling and moving his whole body and becoming unconscious. So his epilepsy was, he would become over-aggressive, he will become over-sexual, and he will start doing things impulsively, making impulse decisions. Those are the type of seizures that he used to have. So he was admitted because of over-aggression. In Germany, before somebody gets admitted to the psychiatry, yeah, he has to be taken to the neurologist, and the neurologist has to find if there's anything wrong with the brain. Yeah, so we did a CT scan of the brain and an MRI scan of the brain. We saw there was something growing, something very small in the prefrontal cortex, and then we did an EEG scan, and then we saw that he's been having some seizures in the prefrontal cortex. Yeah, so he got medication of epilepsy and he became normal again. Yeah, so anything that impairs or anything that causes pressure in the prefrontal cortex and the neuronal connection is impaired, yeah, might cause social and behavioral problems. Yeah, mostly the orbitofrontal cortex. So you find that somebody is highly intelligent, but socially is performing very poor. He cannot make the right decisions with money, or he or she is socially not somebody who's sympathetic or empathetic. He doesn't have any guilty consciousness. He can do something bad to you, go to bed, and still sleep very well at night. Yeah. So things that might cause that are tumors, seizures, and also what you eat. Yeah, because if you eat a lot of carbohydrates and if you eat a lot of meat, that cause oxidative stress and inflammation. So if your prefrontal cortex is inflamed, or if you're somebody who uses a lot of drugs, or if you have somebody who is manic, or if you have somebody who has schizophrenia or has a lot of dopamine in the prefrontal cortex, then you might have these behavioral problems. So like I said, sugar increases the dopamine levels 20 times more than cocaine. So if we have people who have Parkinson's disease and they come to us in the clinic, before, Parkinson is a lack of dopamine in the brain. Yeah, so there's less dopamine in the brain. That's why they get Parkinson's disease. So for you to be able to treat that symptomatically, you give dopamine supplements. Yeah, so before we give them that dopamine supplement, we tell them this dopamine supplement has some side effects with it. It might cause you to overbuy stuff, impulse buying. It might cause you to have addiction in gaming. It might cause you to have some addiction in food. It might cause you to have some anger management problems. You might become aggressive. You might have anxiety. You might have depression. Yeah. So dopamine, lots of dopamine in the body might cause that as well. Yeah. So if you have a lot of dopamine in the brain, you might have also behavioral and social problems. You might have a high IQ, lots of money, but you don't know how to use this money for you to be able to be successful and accumulate more wealth and maximize your potential.
With awareness, is it possible to manage that?
With awareness, yeah.
As in knowing very well that you're somehow inclined to overspend, somehow you're inclined to be, I believe when we go to the direction of So what you've described is what's thrown in the internet around as narcissism.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So
that's a dopamine dysregulation disorder.
It all narrows down.
It all narrows down to what you eat. It all narrows down to your nutrition and your environment as well. Yeah. So if your nutrition is right and you surround yourself with good,
sorry.
No problem. So if your nutrition is right and you surround yourself with the right people, yeah, you'll be able to reduce this type of disorders on a very high note. Yeah.
So let's say when you say someone is likely to become a gambling addict,
yeah.
It's not like, so it means there's someone who can gamble, but as long as they have a balanced dopamine,
yes,
balanced dopamine in the
they
body,
know when to stop.
They will never be addicted to gambling.
Yes, they'll never be addicted to gambling, or he might be addicted to gambling, but he knows or she knows when to stop.
They can't stop.
Yeah, the people who have this dopamine dysregulation, they cannot stop. So what they did with the gambling, as you're speaking of gambling, you see in Las Vegas, yeah, when they were creating these casinos, they realized that if the room is dark, yeah, and there are lots of lights in the room, yeah, people ended up spending more money and gambling more, yeah, than when there's daylight coming in through the windows, yeah. So when it's dark and you're exposed to lots of LED lights, this was an experiment, yeah. So you get the dopamine dysregulation syndrome, the blue light that I spoke about, yeah. So dopamine levels go high, cortisol levels go high, and you get a dopamine dysregulation. So you want extra stimuli for you to be able to produce more dopamine, for you to be able to get that satisfaction feeling, yeah. So that's how.
So the end goal is the satisfaction.
Is the
so
satisfaction.
You keep chasing that.
Yes, you keep on chasing that. Even when you go to the disco, it's dark, yeah, and you're stimulated with lots of LED lights, yeah. That stimulates you to spend more and stay longer in the disco than when it's normal light and it's not that dark. That is why when they want to chase you away from the disco, yeah, they switch on the normal lights.
So you're saying, this is, correct me if I'm wrong, so you will find someone who ideally thinks that they enjoy being in the disco, but in real sense, it's the setting and what it does to their brain.
Exactly.
It's not like they just...
No, it's a social engineering, yeah? It's social engineering. So you're being engineered from outside. It's psychology, yeah? So there are people who are very specialized in this psychological fields, and they know exactly what might stimulate you for you to be able to stay there for a long time and spend the most money than you can, yeah? That's why when you go to the restaurant, they'll offer you bread, first of all, and they'll offer you something sweet to drink. Yeah. So if you're hungry, yeah, and you go to the restaurant, the waiter will come and ask you, okay, what would you like to drink? That's the first thing they ask you. Yeah. So mostly people will ask for wine, beer, or let's say cocktail or mocktail. Yeah. Those things have sugar in it.
Yes.
Yeah. The bread that they'll offer you also is sugar. So that sugar will stimulate your dopamine levels, yeah? So that you get a spike of dopamine and a spike of sugar for you to get more appetite and buy more and spend more, yeah, in the restaurant. They don't come and ask you, okay, which salad would you want to start with? They'll ask you, first of all, what would you like to drink?
Yeah? Just to manage your...
To make you become hungry, to make you become overstimulated and crave for more.
What of someone like me who, if I've not eaten anything for the whole day, and then I bite one biscuit, I'll not eat anything. The hunger goes away.
Yeah.
I'll not eat anything until that taste evaporates.
Yeah.
What?
So when you eat, if you have not eaten the whole day and you eat one biscuit, so that means the sugar spike will go very high. Yeah. The insulin spike, the insulin levels will also go very high. Yeah, so that energy will be used up very fast. Yeah, a normal person who is not well disciplined will go for another biscuit and 3 more biscuits and end up eating lots of biscuits and also lots of sweet stuff. Yeah.
For me, it's different.
Yeah, for you, you'll eat one biscuit and that's
And
it.
that's it. So I can't eat anything else till that disappears, kabisa.
Till that craving disappears.
Even if I take 1 cup of tea and I'd not eaten, I
Yeah.
can't eat for hours again.
You can't eat for hours. So that means you've developed that discipline of doing autophagy. Yeah, you've developed that discipline of doing interval fasting. I guess you do interval fasting.
No.
It's not something that you do.
No, it's not. It's just something I don't know, like.
Okay, so that means maybe you have a lot of leptin levels. Yeah, leptin is another hormone that tells you when to stop. Yeah, so if your leptin levels are high, yeah, it will tell your hypothalamus, okay, now it's enough, let's stop. Yeah, but if your leptin levels are low and you have a lot of ghrelin is the hunger hormone.
Yes.
Yeah, so if that is high, then there's a disbalance. Yeah,
Okay.
so you find somebody who's like you, who can bite one biscuit and the brain says, okay, this is enough. Yeah, I don't need any more. Yeah, but you find somebody who, even if he eats 10 biscuits, he doesn't stop.
So it's not like I'm under eating.
It's not like it depends on what you've been eating throughout. I mean, if you're living on 1 biscuit a day, you're under eating.
No, not necessarily.
Yeah.
But if I avoid to eat that biscuit and let's say eat like food,
Yeah.
that will be fine.
Okay.
But it will stop me from eating.
Yeah.
A cup of tea will stop me from eating.
Okay.
So I
Yeah.
avoid
Then
it.
you have a good leptin level. Yeah, your leptin levels. The leptin is the hormone, is the healthy hormone that tells you when to stop.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thank you. We will research leptin. So at this point, please, let's talk about, yani there's so much nini tumeacha, definitely. Next time you're coming back, we'll definitely, our audience, just in case there are things we need to follow up on, please let us know in the comment section.
Yeah.
Weight loss.
Yes.
There was a time before I branched to my friend, I have a friend, Cleveland Langi. He runs security company,
Yeah.
K9 Alligators. Those who follow our content wanaweza kuwa wameiona. He trains military groups, police, special police units. So I was tempted to join his unit in terms of training. Doesn't lift weights, just your training. But before that, I used to do weights. And I signed up for his training because I saw the impact of what it does. You can't transition from the gym to there. I've taken a few friends from the gym and they suffer. And I think it makes me feel good that at least I can last a few minutes in his class. But before that, you said something that would help me make sense of why people would suffer.
Yeah.
When I tried the gym weights thing, one of the trainers I worked with used to say, after training, get a bowl of rice, kidogo, white rice, and something else he used to say, he used to advise on was the eggs without the yolk, like just the white part. And you say there's so many things wrong with that.
Yeah.
And this, as we go into weight loss and weight management, there's so many advice out there because there's someone who lives by that advice. But from your perspective, this is self-harm.
It's self-harm because when you go to the gym, you break down sugar to get energy. Yeah. So let's say you've eaten something and then you waited for 2 hours and then you go to the gym. Let's say you're going to train for like 1 hour in the gym. So the first couple of seconds, you're going to break down the sugar that is easily available in the bloodstream and is easily available in the cell to produce ATP, the energy from the mitochondria. That is what gives you the energy. So if that is broken down, there is stored sugar, stored glucose in the liver. So the liver stores glucose. And this is to protect you from getting a shock if you don't have enough sugar in your brain. So the liver will pick up the sugar production for energy production after some couple of seconds. Yeah, so that one will go for another 45 to 1 hour. Yeah, because of the sugar that is being released from the liver. You know, so now let's say in the treadmill or you're doing your push-ups, your dumbbells and all that. Yeah, the sugar that you're using is the sugar that is being produced from the liver. It's called gluconeogenesis. Yeah.
Yes.
So you've not started breaking fat yet. So let's say now you are 80 to 100 kilos and you want to break down that fat, that visceral fat. You want to reduce that belly and get that six-pack. So if you train immediately, if you train and then you go and eat a bowl of rice immediately, so what happens is that when you break down sugar, you have insulin levels go down. Yeah, when you're breaking down sugar. Yeah, glucagon levels go up for you to be able to break fat later on. But so long as you're still on gluconeogenesis, sugar that is being produced by the liver, glucagon is not yet produced efficiently. So you still have insulin production, so that insulin can drive those glucose in the cells for you to produce energy. So let's say now you're finished with the gym and you're now going home and you start eating rice. So during that whole period, fat burning has not started yet. Yeah, so the fat will be burnt when you don't eat any carbohydrates afterwards, because burning, your body still needs energy. So if the gluconeogenesis is done and the sugar that is being produced from the liver has been produced enough, yeah, so the liver will stop producing that sugar, and then glucagon levels will rise. Glucagon is another hormone that burns fat, that helps you burn fat. So it will rise and you'll be able to break down that fat. Yeah, but if you eat a bowl of rice immediately, yeah, so insulin levels will go up. Since they cannot work simultaneously, glucagon will be blocked immediately. So even if you eat a piece of biscuit, just a small piece, so long as insulin is produced, so long as that biscuit is broken down into glucose, insulin will be produced immediately. You'll have a spike of insulin. Glucagon production will stop, so it will not burn fat. Yeah. So you've eaten that bowl of rice. You stop glucagon. You stop burning fat. Yeah. So it's like you've done 10% of what you're supposed to be doing for you to be able to break down that fat. So if you want to break down that fat adequately, don't eat carbohydrates after gym. Yeah, and don't eat carbohydrates, also lots of carbohydrates before going to the gym. Yeah, what you need is to be in ketosis. Yeah, so if your body does not produce any sugar anymore, or if you don't have any more sugar left in the body, for you to be able to produce energy for the brain and for the rest of your body, your liver will produce ketone bodies. Yeah, these are fat, short chain fats that helps the brain to produce energy for a longer period of time. That's why you don't feel hungry when you're in ketosis compared to when you're eating sugar. Yeah, so that's the confusion that many people have. Yeah, you go and say, okay, since I train a lot, I can eat anything that I want. That's bad. Yeah, you might be somebody who has a lot of muscles. Yeah, you look like you're healthy, but the visceral fat, you cannot see it. Yeah, this is fat that is stored in the organs, in the arteries, in the inner organs, in the liver, and lots of sugar can also cause a lot of fatty liver. Yeah, so the liver is full of fat.
So you can look fit.
Yes.
But you are very unhealthy.
Very unhealthy. Yeah, it's a case that I had that happened to me. I'll share with you a photo of mine 10 years ago, and you can do the comparison 10 years ago and now. So I used to be very fit. I used to play a lot of basketball. I used to go to the gym like 3 times or 4 times in a week. So I used to tell my wife, since I'm very healthy, I go to the gym every now and then, I can eat anything I want. So I used to eat a lot of cake. In the morning, I would eat cake. If there's no cake, I would be very aggressive, yeah, with myself, and had a lot of anxiety and all that. So one day, we decided with my wife, okay, let's just go and do a checkup. So my wife, she was not so fit then. She was metabolically very healthy, and I looked fit, and I was metabolically unhealthy. So we found that I had high blood pressure. My pressure was up to 159, going to 160. Yeah. My cholesterol levels were very high. And my cognition sometimes will be impaired. I will wake up with brain fog. And I had a lot of acne in the skin. And what we realized is that I looked healthy, but I was metabolically unhealthy. Yeah, so that's the reason why I stopped eating sugar. I did something called the 10-day blood sugar detox diet.
Which is?
So that means you stop eating sugar for 10 days. Yeah, no sugar for 10 days. So that means no white ugali for 10 days, no white rice for 10 days, no putting sugar in your coffee or in tea for 10 days, nothing, no biscuits, no snacks, no pizza, no pasta, yeah, no bananas, no apples, yeah, you just eat berries, and you only eat lentils, you eat dengu, you eat whole grains, yeah, and you only eat meat and cheese and fat, yeah, for 10 days. You go without sugar, yeah. So what I experienced during that time, I got a lot of cravings. The first 3 days are very challenging, yeah. So I got a lot of cravings. I had a lot of headaches. I had a lot of anxiety. I was aggressive. I had a lot of concentration problems. I even caused an accident driving to work. Yeah, so because the body is undergoing through withdrawal. Yeah, so it's a withdrawal process. It's like you're on drugs, and now you're going through withdrawals. Yeah, but after the fourth and the fifth day, once you go past that, yeah, you feel like your body now is changing. Yeah, your sleep becomes better. You lose weight on a natural way. Your sense of touch, your sense of feeling, your sense of taste changes. And also your cognition also changes. Your concentration levels become high because if you eat a lot of sugar, your brain becomes inflamed. Yeah, and when your brain is inflamed, the connections between the neurons is impaired. Yeah, so information cannot travel. Yeah, on a speedy basis.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's what I did. The 10-day blood sugar detox diet, and then after the 10th day, I didn't have any craving for sugar anymore. Yeah, so that's what I did, and I continue with that until up to date.
So, because I wanted to ask, what happens if you eliminate sugar completely in your life?
You get withdrawal syndromes for the first couple of days, and then when you're through that, your inflammation in the body changes. Yeah, your raised cortisol levels changes. Your mood becomes better. Yeah, because cortisol levels go down. Your discipline becomes better because you're not dopamine dysregulated anymore. Your oxytocin levels go high. Your sex hormones also, your testosterone, your libido also goes high. This is especially very important for men. Yeah, because if you eat a lot of sugar, you know, when you're having your sexual intercourse, the penis needs a lot of blood flow. Yeah, and if your blood, if your arteries and capillaries, yeah, that provide the penis with the blood are clogged, you cannot support erection for a long time. Yeah, so if you eliminate sugar from your diet, yeah, you'll be more fertile and be able to support erection for a longer time.
And it will still be sweet.
Yes.
So it's nothing to do with the sugar.
Even the sense of feeling will become enhanced. Yeah, because your nerves are now free of sugar. Yeah, so the sense of sensation will become much better.
So by sugar, you mean the sugar that we buy in the supermarket to koroga in tea, sugar in cake, sugar in everything.
Anything that can be easily broken. Yeah, anything that can be easily broken down into glucose that has less fiber is sugar. Yeah, so that means ugali, biscuit, cake, white rice, those type of food.
Anything that can easily be, that's the general definition.
Yes.
Anything can be easily broken down to glucose.
Yes.
Is bad news.
Is bad news. Yeah. So the tablespoon sugar, the one that you use to put in your coffee and tea, this is a combination between glucose and fructose. Yeah. So it's just a combination of two molecules. So this one is easily broken down into sugar, into glucose. Yeah. So the fructose goes directly to your liver, causes fatty liver.
Yes.
Yeah. And the sugar over accumulates in your body and is going to be deposited as fat. Yeah. And cause a lot of inflammation, causes a lot of atherosclerosis, and cause a lot of problems, cardiovascular diseases, chronic diseases, less oxytocin, less libido, high rates of divorces. Yeah, not being able to be disciplined with your money and also with your behaviors. It's a cycle, it's a vicious cycle.
Whoa.
Yeah, so what I would advise Kenyans, or what I would advise your audience, is to eliminate sugar from the diet. Yeah, I've seen cases of women who want to lose weight and go for liposuctions and then get complications, a perforation of the small intestines, and then get a sepsis and die. There was one case like that in Kenya.
It's because of a quack. I've asked my friend, and we've had him on this platform.
Yes.
Dr. Kenyan, I mentioned him. He said the surgeries, like for the cosmetic surgeries, if it's done by a professional, it's 98% safe.
Yeah.
When done by a professional. But for the Kenyan situation, we have people
who are quacks.
Yes.
But now you see, if you're having a problem with the weight, and then you just go for liposuction, I don't want to talk so negatively about liposuction. It's a good option for people who want a speedy result. But what you're just doing, you're just eliminating that part of fat that is stored in that part of the body. You're not eliminating the visceral fat. You're not eliminating the fatty liver. So it's just you're just curing a symptom, but not the root cause of the problem. So if a person wants to lose weight the natural way, with less money and less complications, watch what you're eating.
There's someone, I once went to the gym and I saw a lady who was pulling in weight proper.
Yeah.
And I think she was trying to lose the belly.
Yeah.
Then I had a gym instructor come and said that whatever she does, it's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
Is there a point of no return, especially as far as the fats is concerned?
No, there's always a point of return. Yeah, because fat can be broken down.
Naturally.
Yeah, naturally.
But okay, if you may not have the discipline because the gym is a beast.
Yeah, gym is a beast. Yeah,
gym is a beast.
Yeah.
So for someone who wants to go the liposuction way, wende wanyonye mafuta and then upate adabu, that's probably an option.
I mean, I mean, the people who go for liposuction, they just want it for optical reasons. Yeah.
Okay, but so if they find this information, waende wanyonye hiyo mafuta and then they be disciplined.
And then they be disciplined, then that's a plus for them.
But then now, what's the point of return, the natural way, for that person who the fat has locked?
Yeah.
So even in the gym, do we go back to nutrition in terms of go to the gym hungry, burn that fat?
You don't go to the gym hungry, because if you go to the gym hungry, you're not going to have enough strength to carry that enough weight for you to be able to burn that fat. Like I said, if you go to the gym, the first couple of minutes, you don't burn fat. Yeah, you only burn the sugar that is produced by the liver. Yeah, but if you go to the gym for, let's say, like 3 hours or 4 hours, then at some point you'll start burning fat.
If you go hard for like
you go hard for like 3 to 4 hours on a daily basis, you'll burn fat if you watch what you're eating. It doesn't make sense to go to the gym for 4 to 5 hours and then go back and eat a bowl of rice. Yeah, or go back to your natural habits of eating. Yeah, so the best way is to remove the carbs from your body. During that time that you're removing the carbs, you don't go to the gym, you don't drink alcohol, because you need all the strength that you need, and you need less temptation as possible. If you drink alcohol, you'll stimulate temptation and then go back to your normal habits.
Okay, sawa. So now, asante sana for that clarification. A few, just now let's just kidogo to as a highlight to Peter, the impact of sleep and the circadian rhythm.
Yes.
I've heard the circadian rhythm is your biological clock.
Your biological clock, right? that is regulated by the suprachiasmatic nucleus that sits right on top of the hypothalamus.
Okay. Yeah. So which means, and this is a debate I've had.
Yeah.
There are people who say that I'm not a morning person. I would rather work late night, and I would rather work late night and sleep till the time that nitaamka. But apparently there's a science to sleeping early, as in your biological clock has nothing to do with you being a night person.
Yeah, exactly.
What is the accurate?
So the biological clock is being controlled by the suprachiasmatic nucleus in the brain. So this one is being regulated by the light. So when the sun hits up, when it rises, your eyes will register that light as blue light. yeah, then it suppresses the production of melatonin, the sleep hormone, and then you'll wake up and be more alert because now you have dopamine and then you have cortisol. You have more concentration, your cognitive levels will go high, and then you have also motivation to do stuff during the morning.
Okay.
Yeah. So once the sun.
The sun.
Yeah, the sun.
What of someone who lives in Kilimani or Pipeline, who, if they want to see the sun, they play sun videos on YouTube?
Then they have a dopamine dysregulation syndrome. They have less melatonin during that time. They need that melatonin. They have a problem. Yeah, they'll have, you might sleep, let's say during the day for a long time, but it will not be as deep as the sleep at night in darkness.
And it's important to have that deep
It's important to have that deep sleep for recovery. One, because your brain gets detoxified during that deep sleep because the pressure of the brain goes down, and then the lymphatic system, yeah, that is the detoxifying system in the brain. You don't have the lymphatic system in the brain, you have the lymphatic system in the periphery. Yeah, so that's when the lymphatic system kicks in, and that's when the brain gets detoxified. So all that toxin that has accumulated during the day will get drained from the brain and taken to the bloodstream and get eliminated from the body.
And toxins, we are talking about hormones, or if you keep bad company, bad ideas, the kind of food that has been absorbed.
The type of food that have been absorbed in the bloodstream, the type of metabolites that have been produced in the in the brain. So there's one topic we did not touch, or two topics we did not touch, that is also very important. And by the way, all this information that I'm giving you is not taught in medicine. Yeah, it's not taught in mainstream medicine. This is information that you get by teaching yourself. Yeah, and it's the information that I got while teaching my patients. And I saw that what we always do as doctors, we only treat symptoms. We don't treat the main cause of the problem. And you see, at the end of the day, the people who benefit from this is the big pharma, yeah, because the big pharma wants you sick. If you're a healthy nation, the big pharma will not make money if you have a healthy nation. So the big pharma wants you sick, and the big pharma works hand in hand with the food industry. That's why you have lots of added sugars in your food. If you go to the supermarket, if you buy this and that, there's a lot of added sugar in that food for you to get chronic inflammation, get cardiovascular disease, and be dependent to the big pharma, yeah, who sells you medicine. Yeah, so this is information that is not taught in the mainstream medicine. When I studied medicine, by the time I was graduating, and by the time I was finishing my specialization until I became a certified board neurologist in Germany, I did not know the importance of vitamin D. Yeah, nobody taught me anything about vitamin D. Yeah, and vitamin D is a very essential hormone that regulates almost every system in the human body. Yeah, so this is information that I acquired for myself when I had my problem with the blood pressure and the weight loss and everything. Yeah, so it's very important to have a deep, good night's sleep.
I have two topics we've not touched on.
Yes. So the topics that we not touch on is there are some metabolites that are produced in the body when you metabolize your food. So if you eat a lot of carbohydrates, high caloric food, let's say ugali or white rice, what is going to be produced in the mitochondria is the one that is going to metabolize that glucose. And at the end of the day, if there's a high level of glucose in the mitochondria, it's going to produce something called oxidative stress. So this is what happens in the cytochrome C oxidase chain. That's the fourth chain in the mitochondria for energy production. So if you produce a lot of oxidative stress, yeah, that is an oxygen radical, yeah, that lacks an electron. So since they lack electrons, each element in the universe, they want to connect with another electron to be a whole molecule or a whole system. So since they lack electrons and you have a lot of metabolites, you have a lot of radicals in your body, oxidative stress, when you have a lot of radicals like that, it's called oxidative stress because the body is overwhelmed. It cannot neutralize these radicals the way it's supposed to neutralize them. So it damages the cells. First of all, it damages the mitochondria itself, where it's produced, and then it damages the cells. It damages also the DNA. So you age quickly, yeah? You get a slow recovery when you're injured, yeah, and you also get a lot of inflammation and irritation in your system, yeah. So when you sleep, yeah, you also remove this oxidative stress. So if you don't get that deep sleep at night, when it's dark and there's less blue light,
Yes.
yeah, you eliminate less oxidative stress. If you eat a lot of meat animal products, you produce something called hydroxyl radicals. Yeah, so animal products have long fatty chains that has a COOH group. This COOH group is highly inflammatory because it lacks an electron. Anything that lacks an electron is highly reactive. Yeah, so it searches for electrons everywhere, and it takes electrons from each and every cell and each and every organ, yeah, for it to become a whole element. Yeah, so if you eat a lot of meat, so that's another topic of another day. I know it's going to be, I'm going to annoy a lot of Kenyans when I say nyama choma is not good, yeah, because of this oxidative stress. Yeah, so at night when you're getting your deep sleep, you're also eliminating this oxidative stress. So what can also help you reduce the oxidative stress is the infrared light. Yeah, so there's the infrared light. Yeah, is the opposite to blue light in the evening. So if you get enough infrared light during the day, for 15 minutes, it's going to help the mitochondria to reduce that oxidative stress, produce more energy, and then you get a better vitality and longevity. Yeah.
Okay. So longevity is also another concept that you can, in terms of natural causes, you can determine how long you live.
You can determine
based
how
on
long you live.
certain principles.
Yes. Yes.
So Sasa now, because there are other topics that we've not even covered based on what we had agreed to cover, please allow me to pin you again before you travel back to Switzerland, because it will be a year before you come back.
Yeah.
And I'm sure by the time you finish Izo trips,
Yeah.
our audience will have given feedback on this episode,
Yeah.
so that we can redo and cover plus what they would have asked us to cover, because we're out of time for this episode.
Okay.
Right?
One thing I would like to touch before I go.
Yes, please.
Like I said, there are two topics you've not touched on.
Yes.
So there's something called the gut bacteria. The gut bacteria produces metabolites that help. Tryptophan is a hormone, yeah, to break tryptophan into serotonin. So serotonin is the happy hormone. Serotonin is produced 95% in the gut. Yeah, it's not produced 95% in the brain. So when you get depression, you have less serotonin. So what psychiatrists do, they give you serotonin reuptake inhibitors to help you maintain or retain lots of serotonin in your brain, which is not enough to treat that depression. So you see, it's a symptomatic treatment, but it's not treating the right cause. So if you eat a lot of sugar, ugali, rice, and all that, you are killing the good gut bacteria that also produces serotonin. So depression is also linked to nutrition, what you're eating. Yeah, that's why when you cut on sugar, your mood becomes better.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's also a different topic that is also very important, that is also not taught in mainstream.
We'll definitely
medicine.
explore that. I'll really be on your case, see if I can pin you for a day. I'll talk to our team.
Yeah.
And I believe our audience will give us feedback before this, so that before you travel back, we can have a conversation to finish up on the topics.
No problem.
I'll have quick clarification. You said that tukiwa hapa nyuma, the what you eat that does not have an electron is reactive, and to some extent, when what you eat does not have electrons, it can damage DNA.
Yes.
How bad does it get to a place where it has damaged the DNA that your children will not be yours?
No, not to that extent. Okay. No, not to that extent.
Thank you for clarifying that.
Yeah.
So for leo, yani, tulisema mambo ni mengi na masaa ni machache. We'll throw it to our audience, please. If there is anything you'd like us to follow up before Dr. Harun travels back to Switzerland, we are happy to set this up again with your permission. That's
fine. That's fine. I'll be in Kenya. Actually, I'm in Nairobi until 26th. I'll be flying to Mombasa on the 27th. And then I'll come back to Nairobi on the 14th, spend one night, and then on the 15th we fly back to Switzerland.
Ni kama tutaangalia kitu on the 14th.
On the
because
14th.
I believe if I can pin our producer Wiki, because he also needs to take a break.
Yeah.
We either see if we can do something on the by the 26th.
Yeah.
Ama if we can try pin on the 14th before you fly back.
Okay.
So that watu watakuwa wametupea pia feedback on
Yeah.
this particular episode. Otherwise, thank you for the good vibes.
Okay, no problem.
For the show.
Yeah, thank you for having me here.
Pale.
For me, it was very important for me to be here because I would like Kenyans to maintain a healthy diet for them to prevent cardiovascular diseases and also chronic inflammation. So what I would like them to do, and I would like you to eye at this episode during this festive season.
100%.
Yeah, because this is the time people are at home. This is the time people will tune in the most.
Actually, our producer Wiki, this is happening on today is Monday.
Yeah.
Right. If we're able to pin him, because I know he's supposed to travel and he does his thing.
Yeah.
This should go up on Wednesday.
Okay, that's good.
Yes.
Because this is information that most of the populations, they don't have. Even my patients in Switzerland, the one that I've given this information, I have testimonies. I have people who have had diabetes and they have been able to reverse their diabetes, hypertension, and they're not in medication anymore. Yeah. The thing is that we can copy the West as much as we can when it comes to technology and lifestyle, but it's not good to copy everything. Yeah. So the type of food that is eaten in the West, let's say the burgers, the McDonald's, the pizzas, the pastas, we don't need to adapt that on a one-to-one scale, yeah, because there, diseases, chronic diseases are manageable, yeah, because there's a good insurance system, and once you are sick and you get admitted into the hospital, you don't need to pay a single cent sometimes, or you just need to pay a small percentage because everything or almost everything will be taken care of by the insurance system. In Kenya, it's a different scenario, yeah. You have to have money for you to be able to get treatment and good treatment. And you see that sometimes even our politicians and people who have money in Kenya, they seek treatments elsewhere because they don't trust in their own medical system over here. Yeah, so if the rich person cannot get good treatment in Kenya, what about the person who doesn't have money? Yeah, so this person is in a mess. Yeah, so for this person to prevent spending a lot of hard-earned money and also doing some harambes to be able to get treatment, the only way he can prevent or she can prevent this scenario is by preventing diseases through maintaining a healthy diet. That means low-carb diet. Okay. And also to be able to prevent chronic inflammation as well, reduce on animal products as well. But that's another topic we'll speak when I come back.
Looking forward to the second I don't want to say the second coming. Don't do any blasphemous. When you come back.
Yeah, again. Okay. So that's good.
You can be able to execute that before you travel back. Yeah,
I'll be happy and I'll be available to do another session before I go back to Switzerland.
Asante sana.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, sasa.